computer. All right. Well, good morning and welcome to the second episode of the Steelers Insider Podcast, where you get to peer behind the steel curtain with the Steelers insider himself, Mr. Jim Wexell. Jim, good morning and welcome to our second episode.
Good morning, Jeremy. I don't know how good it is. I'm, in fact, wearing my pink shirt today. I haven't worn a pink shirt around anything football since Russ Grimm told me how pretty I looked in pink one day in the hallway. That was about 2003, and I haven't worn pink since, at least the football. But today I think it's worthy. That was a pink-type game.
Yes, it was an ugly showing for sure, and I can't wait to get into that. But before we do, I just want to let you know that I got my Ohio Bobcat shirt here. So I've been following the team. I see that they're 2-0. It looks like Sammy had a big game there. You want to give us the Bobcats update?
The team is playing hard. That is all I will say. They are on a run, and I'm not going to be the guy to mush it.
Hey.
I will say that yesterday Sammy was offered scholarship for a 5th year. You know, you do qualify for red shirts, and she had qualified, but it's always up to the coach to actually give him that 5th year on scholarship. So she just got that yesterday. So apparently she's playing well. I didn't go to yesterday's game because she was injured and supposedly she didn't think she was going to play, and she did play and played well. So I'm very happy for her. Thank you for asking.
No problem. We're going to keep an eye on the season for the Bobcats moving forward. So looking forward to those weekly updates. So we have a packed show for you today. As Jim mentioned, an ugly night last night with the final preseason contest, the Steelers taking on the Panthers. And we're going to dig into some of those individual performances of players who were on the cusp of making the roster. We know that the starters really didn't play, not a lot of regulars in there. So we're going to go into those performances, Jim and I, and then we're also going to talk about what was behind such a dreadful performance. And then also, we know that, or we've heard, there was a report by Jerry Dulac that sometime today, Saturday, you may be listening to this Sunday or later in the week, a massive deal was coming for TJ Watt. We'll talk a bit about that. And then we're going to close out with our second ever Terrible 3, where Jim doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. I have 3 questions and it's spontaneous answer. So Jim, I hope you're ready for that.
I hope so. That'll be fun.
Yes. All right. So 34-9 loss. And I think probably the biggest story coming out of the game last night is heading into the Panthers game. A lot of talk about Dwayne Haskins and whether or not he could still compete for that number 2 position. Didn't work out really well. How would you evaluate his performance, and has that impacted his ability to stay on the team? Or do you still think he'll make it as the number 3?
You know, yesterday, if you'd asked me this question at this time, I'd say he looks like the number 2 and, you know, the one in waiting. And now I say, cut him. You know, I really don't mean that, but I think that's a lot of the thought we're all going through. How about you? Are you going through that?
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting to see him rise up under the pressure because I think that that's what the team wanted to see when he's stressed. He's playing against a first-team defense, that he can move the ball, and he really didn't do that.
You know, it's funny you say stressed. This was a big game for him. I think it was the biggest game of his reclamated career. Mm-hmm. And here's a guy that played in huge games at Ohio State. It was a high number 1 draft pick by Washington. So he's been in a lot of pressure games in Washington, particularly as his career began to fade. And now he comes to Pittsburgh and you say, all right, this is a huge game for you. This is a number 4 game. You would think the guy who's had all those kind of big games in his background could have risen up more. It's just a terrible performance. I mean, that interception, that 100-mile-an-hour pass, 5-yard pass he threw to Derek Watt kind of summed up his inconsistency and erraticism.
Yeah,
that's a word. That's just who he is now. I don't know if you can ever escape that now. Will he ever get that excitedness out of his system?
Right. And I know Del Ollie of DK Sports was talking about he didn't take the chances to push the ball down the field. And I know that's something I've been critical of Mason Rudolph with. But earlier this offseason, I went back and looked at Haskins' performance even in high school, and he had a tendency to throw the short passes. He really wasn't a down the field passer. So, you know, can it
Tiger
changes stripes at this point. And,
I can't imagine he's not a down the field passer. I mean, with that arm.
Yeah.
And has he been overcoached? Has he been coached to check down, take the short one? I know Tomlin has mocked him a bit, calling him check down Dwayne. I'm sure Tomlin wants to see that deeper ball.
Right.
Because the safeties have to play back to respect him. The cornerbacks have to be on top of the receivers. There should be a lot. That's probably what he's been told, that there's a lot open underneath the way you intimidate the deep men.
Right.
So I think he's just living with that. He's just, he's throwing the short stuff. That touchdown pass was another check down.
Yeah.
But this guy was open and could turn it up and score a touchdown. These guys on 3rd and 6, when he's throwing a 3-yard pass, they're smothered, and it just looks bad. So
yeah. And I think the best case for scenario for him right now is he sticks as a number 3, although that's not guaranteed. He gets the full year to learn the system, comes back training camp next year, competes, and then I think we'll have a more accurate understanding. But as it stands today, I think the discussion of the Steelers drafting somebody for Ben's successor is probably the reality here. And then
let me jump in just 1 minute. I really am not sure this is Ben's last year.
I hope you're right.
I don't, this was never said at any point by anybody. And even Art Rooney came out and said, we don't know that this is his last year. Stop saying that. Yeah. The way he looks, he's always fooled the national media by staying in better shape than they have suspected. Mm-hmm. But he looks even better than that this year. He looks like he's really taking it seriously. He has musculature in his arm. His arms ripple now when he's at a press conference. He likes wearing the short sleeve shirts, like the pink stuff,
The beach muscles.
He just looks like he feels good. He's got a much more confident glow about him. I don't know that this is going to be his last year by any means. Also, let me say this about Mason Rudolph. You have to die before you live. And I don't know if Mason went for the head fake last night that the media did, that he was the number 2. Because even Tomlin told Bob Labriola in his late week interview, anyone read, not enough people read that great late week interview by Bob Labriola. Tomlin said, you can assume that, but you might be wrong. This was big game. Landry Jones sat out a few years ago, and everybody thought that he had locked up a job, and then he got cut because the guy playing in his place played well in that 4th preseason game. This was there for the taking for Haskins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that you would hope that Mason realizes how close to death he came here, and that he just starts relaxing and playing his game. He's got to relax too. He's as uptight as Haskins was last night. He needs to see the field better. And at this point, as a backup quarterback, he needs to see the field better and at least put the ball in the end zone one time in preseason, which he did not do.
Right.
So you would hope that this near-death experience gives him life.
Yeah, and again, like I was saying earlier, I've been critical of his inability to push the ball downfield, but that's a unique take that maybe he's feeling that pressure that if I make a mistake, I'm in jeopardy of sliding down the depth chart. So maybe this does give him some confidence and comfort moving forward. How about Mr. Bennie Snell football? He was back in action from his mystery injury, and he had a decent game.
Yeah, decent. Bennie, decent Snell. Bennie Snell, decent football. He's not Matt Snell, his great uncle. Maybe you should talk to him more. That still rubs me the wrong way. I've asked Bennie Snell at his combine and when he was a rookie, if he has talked to his great uncle, Matt Snell, the driving force behind Joe Namath's guaranteed Super Bowl win. And he says, no, man, he's too old. I'm like, what kind of answer is that? So I look up Matt Snell to see if he's in some kind of infirmary, no, he gives speeches and stuff. He's a sharp guy still. So anyway, that's just beside the point. Benny, different kind of dude. And he ripped off 17-yard run. I assume he has held off Kalen Ballage. In my opinion, Ballage would make the team. My understanding is Snell's got this locked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just looking at the 17-game season and having that depth there, they'll probably keep Snell around. I know for the longest time I didn't have Snell making the 53, but I think he again, it wasn't a super impressive performance, but it was modest. It was enough. So I think he gets there. Jameer Jones, I know that's your guy. He was pressuring the quarterback last night again. Special teams tackle. He's all but made the roster, right?
Yes, he's your number 4. I like Quincy Roche. He's got a great NFL body. He's getting pressure. He's playing well. He doesn't play special teams, though. I think you can cut him and get him back. But, boy, you'd hate to lose him. I really like a lot about him. But then, he was a 6th-round pick, and he is who he purported to be as a college player at Miami. Mm-hmm. And still teams passed on him until the 6th round.
Right.
So I don't see them picking him up because they'll run into the same problem the Steelers have. Do you keep a guy on scholarship that's not going to help you on special teams?
Right.
So my guess is Roche can make it back to the practice squad. Cassius Marsh, he surprises me when he gets there a little bit. I assume he can play some special teams a little bit because he has his supporters in the organization. I don't get it, but my guess is that I'm missing it and they are not.
Yeah, I think it's probably the experience that Cassius has. I think he's been around for 8 years. He's been on several different teams. It's probably the experience factor. He brings a little bit on special teams. But I think back to that Cleveland game, and I can't get it out of my head last year in the postseason where he just got ragdolled in the running game. But yeah, I mean, they may keep 5. I wouldn't want to lose Roche, but I think they could probably sneak him on the practice squad. But I'll definitely be looking at the cuts on Tuesday to see what happens there. Mathew Sexton, Cheddar Bob. I think we were all hopeful that he would have another big punt return, but muffed a few, and looks like he muffed his opportunity.
Like I wrote this morning, if Stephon Logan can win a job in that last 4 preseason game with kick returns, as Tomlin always refers to him, you can lose it too. I thought Sexton had this position.
Yeah.
2 fumbles, 2 muffs, whatever you want to call them. He recovered one of them. That doesn't look good, but I would cheer Tomlin on if he kept him anyway.
Yeah.
I just like him as a return man. I think he's tough. I think those fumbles last night were an aberration. The one, he was trying to make something happen instead of letting the ball roll around. And, you have to make something happen as an outside shot, long shot.
Right.
And he really does have the speed. He is Ryan Switzer. He's the guy they all wanted Ryan Switzer to be. Right. I think he's got much better speed. I would like to see him kept as a 6th guy. If you cut McLeod to get Cody White is the polished 2nd-tier receiver who should make it as the number 5, who will help them as a number 5. I don't know that Ray, he doesn't come back for the ball. He hurt Haskins a couple times last night.
Yeah.
He's not a polished wide receiver. He's a better return man. So if you cut McLeod, you have to keep Cody White, you have to keep another return man. Because I don't know that you want Deontay Johnson back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I'm cutting guys like Roche, maybe Buddy Johnson, those kind of scholarship guys to keep a 6th receiver, because Cody White, for a team that'll use 4 receivers at a time and only, 2.5 defensive linemen, and they're going to keep 7, you should keep 6 receivers for a team that uses 4 at times. Mm-hmm. Cody White deserves that 6th shot.
Yeah, I know you've been high on Cody White for the longest time, and I know the last time we
too long.
But Ray McLeod, I'm not sold on him either. I think last year he gave us a lot in the return game early on, but that faded. He's got great speed. I know that they utilized him a lot on those end arounds. I think of that Philadelphia Eagles game last season where he had that big carry, but he really hasn't done much this preseason. And the biggest thing you talked about, Sexton taking chances there, even though he fumbled, I don't see that from McLeod. And I would even say around midseason last year, it seemed he was hesitant to try to make a play in the return game. And that has stuck all throughout the preseason. So
let me jump in. That's a great point about McLeod, because he's a known fumbler.
Yeah.
The year before, he had 5 fumbles and was cut, and nobody wanted him in spite of his speed. The Steelers picked him up. That speed flashed, and he didn't fumble. Then he fumbled, and then he started fair catching everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know that Sexton is going to have that mental bugaboo. I don't. You'd hate to be wrong about that, because Deontay Johnson could always go back there in difficult situations the way AB used to go back there in difficult situations.
Right. Right.
But I'm with you on McLeod, and McLeod's big play of the preseason. That I don't know if it was an end around, but he ran down the sideline. Cody White laid out two players with one block and opened the sideline for him. So don't rule out Cody White just yet.
All right. Well, I'll have to take him into consideration in my next 53. I wonder if there's any chance, let's say that Cody does stick, McLeod's out and Sexton is out. Maybe they sneak him onto the practice squad. If they maybe look at the waiver wire after these cuts, in terms of a trade, I don't know if they have the capital to make a move, but could you see them adding somebody via waiver wire or trade at the wide receiver position?
Well, I don't know about wide receiver. If you're saying they need a punt returner, okay, if there's somebody explosive, but they do have over the cap's reporting that they have near $18 million over the cap right now.
Wow.
And you assume a lot of that's for TJ.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if TJ signs this massive deal, which he will, Jerry Dulack's a great reporter. There's still a lot of money left over, and they want $5 million to go into the season. They have to pay for a practice squad. They have to pay for a couple extra guys to go from 51 to 53. Say that's $2 more million, so that's $7 million out of the 18 million. That leaves 11 million. You don't need a 1 year lump sum of 11 million for TJ. So I assume, I'm just guessing they have something in mind.
Yeah.
Another player to add. I don't know if it's an offensive lineman or this return specialist that you think is out there.
Yeah. I don't know whom, but yeah. And then one player who I had a lot of faith and confidence in coming into the season based on the experience he got last year because of the injuries to Devin Bush and at that inside backer position. But Robert Spillane, had high hopes for him, but he is just, I don't know if I didn't see it last season, but he, in both the passing game and in his run defense, just very underwhelming.
They didn't see it last year, so don't beat yourself up. They had high hopes for him. He's a good zone dropper. Mm-hmm. We know he struggles in man, but he's a good zone dropper. Well, and he's not even doing that. He has the length. It's like the Dwayne Haskins savior to cut dynamic. Mm-hmm. We had to be watching Spillane in coverage last night saying, can this guy even make the team?
Yeah.
You go from starter to all of a sudden questioning whether Ulysses Gilbert and Marcus Allen are better. Hey, those two finally showed up in coverage last night. I think someone lit a fire under Gilbert last night. He was sideline to sideline.
Right.
And Marcus Allen started the game off in great coverage, but he hurt his hamstring. Does that save Spillane? I don't know. Do you cut Buddy Johnson? I don't know. I go through that, and I think I had cut Marcus Allen last week to keep Jameer Jones. Mm-hmm. Now that I want to keep a sixth receiver now, so that even cuts into it further. So I don't know that Buddy Johnson can be kept, and I'm not sure Spillane can be kept.
Right. I like Marcus Allen just because of the versatility he brings initially with the team as a safety. He's kind of that hybrid guy inside, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Spillane cut. And if they, again, maybe go to the waiver wire next week, or if they make a move there, but just very disappointed in Spillane. I like him. That hit last year on that big Tennessee running, Derrick Henry. Yeah, so just very disappointing. And then the last one, and I didn't even realize there was a competition taking place at long snapper, but Christian Kuntz seems to be in place to overtake Cameron Candiday.
Well, last week it came to my attention that Kuntz was snapping to Percy Harvin. Every time Harvin went out for a placement hold, Kuntz would snap it to him. And you figure Harvin's going to make the team, right? So why would they pair him with the guy they're going to cut? And maybe they're going to keep. And so Kuntz, and Tomlin brought this up in Bob Labriola's late week column. I highly recommend this every week. Tomlin opens up a little bit to Bob. And he said, he pointed out how Kuntz is a linebacker, how he wants to play linebacker, and he did in previous stints with the team. But this year they told him, no, just work on your long snapping. And then he made a tackle last night. You know, that's your second thing, a long snapper. You have to get the snap. That has to be your area of expertise, of course.
Right.
But if you can do that and then get down there and tackle, I don't know. Kuntz looks pretty good right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a massive cap savings, but it is a little bit over Canada. So I'm sure that probably factors into it a little bit. And I think Canada, he was sick last night. So hopefully that was not COVID related. We don't need a Tennessee Titans issue like they have going on there. But interesting to see that that's a position battle that's taking place. When you look at the game overall, it was such an awful performance across the board, offensively and defensively. What do you attribute that to? Was it a mismatch of expectations, being that the Panthers were playing their first teamers and the Steelers were really taking a long, hard look at their depth? But why such a lackluster effort?
Yeah. Some of those reasons, you know, the number twos, but I've seen this scenario before, and I have in the past watched the Steelers really practice hard in extreme heat. And before that fourth game with backups galore, thinking, boy, they're going to get smoked here after this difficult week of practice. And they didn't. It seems to have made them tougher in the past. So I'm not going to blame the heat for this. Just they couldn't move the ball to begin with. Mm-hmm. And then they just, as Tomlin said, fatigue set in. And those second teamers, they need every edge anyway on defense. The second team defense is playing. And then you've got to work your third teamers in there as well. So there's some of that and some of that. And also the game just got away from them. One of those games. You know, I really won't take too much into it. You know, that fourth quarter was brutal. You have to stay awake because you got to do a podcast the next day.
Yeah.
But you just hope that both teams start taking knees. You know, with 10 minutes left, it's like, come on, let's wrap this up and go to bed.
Yeah, I saw your tweet. What was it? Can we get 20 straight knees here? Yeah, it was rough to watch. You know, but hey, at least the preseason is over. Now they're wrapped up. We could start looking ahead to Buffalo. They finished the preseason 3-1, and I did an article a couple weeks back where I looked at how the Steelers had fared in preseason, the Super Bowl years, and not that there's a direct correlation here, but I will point out that the last time the Steelers went 3-1 in the preseason, the last three times they made the Super Bowl, they were 3-1. So that was, you know, that was under Tomlin twice and Cowher in 2005. So I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but I think just in totality, looking at the preseason, I think they accomplished what they needed to. I think there's maybe a bit of a renewed confidence in the running game and the offensive line. I think we feel encouraged about Roethlisberger. You mentioned just his renewed spirit this year. I think there are still questions around that offensive line. And I think there will continue to be until the season moves on a bit. But what's your overall assessment at the end of these 4 preseason games?
Well, I'd be interested to see if they got pasted in those 3-1 preseasons at the end, because that slaps them in the face mentally. You know, after doing so well and feeling good at practice, it slapped like this before the opener can be a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the coaches can say anything they want now. Players have to hop too. It won't be like that. That's more college and high school, but I think you understand the mental effect that this can have. It
Right.
can help. I'd also like to know, and you're the one that looked it up, when was the last time they went 4-0 and what happened?
1997. That was the year that they lost to the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
they should have beat them with some better play calling.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But you know, I feel good. I like you. It's offensive line and a little bit of secondary issues. Although, man, James Pierre played well last night.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So now you can feel more confident about moving Sutton inside.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've been promulgating the dime now, if you can't use Sutton in the dime, he was a key piece to the dime, which is 6 DBs.
Right.
and now Trey Norwood, who again refused to tackle last night. Trey Norwood can be the free safety in a dime, and you can move Minka now as a piece the way you move Troy Polamalu. And I want to see that. I'm excited about that. So James Pierre, I think, kickstarts all of that by being a guy you can trust. And after last night, I trust him even more now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one final take on the game last night. Dan Moore, did he do enough to earn that right tackle position, that starting right tackle position? You know, he was a guy that I know when he was drafted, they said he was going to compete for a starting position. Do you think can sneak in there?
Not yet.
Not yet.
As much as I thought he could at left tackle, they moved him to the right side to make him the swing tackle. But I'd have to watch his tape last night more. But leading up to this, he wasn't quite ready. And if Banner's not ready with the knee, then it's the general. It's the general at right tackle. You already have one rookie playing center. So General Haig is going to step back in and take charge of right tackle. I don't know if anybody really wants to see that, except you know how coaches are. The old Rooney saying, "Don't worry, the other team has coaches too."
Yeah. I love that nickname, by the way, General Joe Haig.
You know, everybody in the press box says it now.
That's
you know, I think I will be remembered for that, but I really still remain miffed at many of my friends for not giving me credit for Fast Willie Parker.
That was yours?
Yeah. The pride I had when Al Michaels, he broke one in a Monday night game, it might have been his rookie year. He flying down the sideline and Al Michaels goes, "It's Fast Willie Parker." I know nobody gave me credit, but man, I know. See, Alan Faneca apparently reads my column in Steelers Digest where I called him Fast Willie Parker that whole preseason of his rookie year. And Alan said it when Fast Willie was going to play in October. Alan called him Fast Willie Parker. So everybody started calling it then. But I know where Alan got it. It's still in the archives of Steeler Digest.
Yeah.
So I'll whine about not getting credit for that forever. But thank you for reminding everyone that I came up with the general.
General.
Everybody in the press box says the general's in. You know, everyone's got their binoculars and.
I love it.
We're having fun in the press box after a year off with COVID. It really is a place of raucousness, fellowship, and immaturity. Very great immaturity.
That sounds like a blast. So we wrapped up the game there, and then just looking ahead to today, as I said earlier, Jerry Dulac reporting that today the TJ Watt mega deal is going to go down. And he pointed out that the largest contract value right now in the league, Khalil Mack, 141 million over 6 years. It looks like TJ's contract's going to come in around 175 million is what I saw. Do you expect that deal to get done today? And what's your thoughts on him becoming the highest paid defender and the highest paid Steeler in history?
If Jerry reports it's going to get done, then I presume it's going to get done. I have no reason to question that. I have no reason to believe it won't get done before September 12th. They have a long time. They handled this right. I questioned it. Reporting a holdout while showing up was strange. Nobody seemed on the team to be affected by this potential question mark of leadership. Nobody seemed bothered. It was only a figment in my imagination. Tomlin handled this, finessed this perfectly. And it looks like, unless I'm wrong, I mean, there's a little bit of Marcus Allen hamstring, a little bit of Zach Banner knee, and a little bit of Josh Dobbs turf toe, in case you do want to cut Haskins, which I don't think they will. But they're injury free.
Yeah, knock on wood. I'll do the same.
I mean, the preseason's over, and I mean, you know, anything can happen, but it's looking good. It's looking good, even though they got crushed last night. And that quarterback.
Yeah.
The quarterback for Carolina, Darnold, didn't look much better than Haskins, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But they got it rolling, and yeah, good for them. But you can move on after this one.
Yeah. Yep. Well, great stuff, Jim. And now it's that point in the show. We did this the last time we talked. It's our terrible 3 segment where I'm going to fire 3 questions at you that, you don't know where they're coming from. So are you ready to go?
I'm ready, brother.
All right, here we go. Name one possible surprise cut on Tuesday that nobody sees coming.
Well, since we've already talked about Robert Spillane possibly getting it, that would rule out nobody because you see it coming. And I don't know if it's going to happen. And we talked about Cam Canada, the long snapper, a good cut possibility, but we're all talking about that. So I don't know. Buddy Johnson, we talked about him being cut, and we talked about Ray McLeod being cut. Mm-hmm. The guy we haven't discussed, the defensive line cut is going to be so difficult. All those guys are contributing, and there's really only 2.5 spots. I count nose tackle as a half because you don't play much nose tackle. Yeah. So I'm going to go Carlos Davis. You hate to see a big, strong, powerful, fast athlete like that get cut. But boy, he got moved in the run game pretty easily last night. And third string nose tackle, I know they're playing him at nose just to give him some versatility. And they're playing him on special teams, but Henry Mondo does that role better than Carlos. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go Carlos Davis, even though he was a 7th round pick last year. So that's not a big name. I don't see any other names. Kalen Ballage, I think will get cut. And that's a shame because I thought he looked really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully they can sneak Davis there onto the practice squad, but interesting take there. Steelers have had a history of some of the nastiest, meanest, toughest players, and intimidators. So in your opinion, who is meaner, Jack Lambert or James Harrison?
Well, it's almost impossible to say someone's meaner than James Harrison. Last time I called Jack Lambert, what do you want? Like I had called him the day before, I called you 15 years ago. I want to write this book. Yeah. We talk about this. I tell you, when I met Jack Lambert, I had to do an interview for Steelers Digest. He was at the last Three River Stadium game. And I went down into the bowels of the stadium at a bar I did not know existed. And he was giving Terry Hanratty the business, sitting at a table where Greg Lloyd was there. And I kind of didn't want to interrupt because Jack Lambert was holding court. And I told him, I said, hey, Jack, I may have said Mr. Lambert. I don't know. This was in 2000. I need to interview you. I think you knew I was coming. He goes, oh, yeah. And Greg Lloyd said something smart about the media. And Jack Lambert told Greg Lloyd off. This gentleman came down to talk to me. I've never seen anybody talk like that to Greg Lloyd. Greg Lloyd might be the meanest linebacker of them all. I forgot
about Greg Lloyd.
Yeah. So I, with all due respect to James Harrison's meanness, I did make him cry one time. I asked him, one of his ex-teammates at Kent State had died in a car wreck the night before James played his first game, the William Green, Joey Porter fight game. Roy Attia had died in a car wreck. I asked James about it, and tears came to his eyes. And I walked away, and Dale Lawley said, he's going to have to kill you now. You saw him cry. He cannot let you live. So as much respect as I have for James's meanness, I got to go with Lambert telling off Greg Lloyd over a media guy. So that's pretty mean. So I'm going to stick with Lambert.
I don't think you can go wrong with either of those choices there. So. All right. And then the final one that I have for you. So you have a knack for nicknames.
I'm sorry. I already jumped this one, didn't I?
Maybe a little bit, but General Joe Haig, awesome name. Going to put you on a spot here. If you're given a nickname to the rookies, Najee Harris, Dan Moore Jr., Pat Freiermuth, on the spot, what would they be?
Man, I tell you, I really don't have much here. And Najee, you can't change that name. That's a nickname all itself. And Dan Moore Jr. Now, I've expressed my problem with juniors in the press box. So they all give me the business when someone like Dan Moore Jr. Yeah. My editing style, we're not calling anyone junior unless we've heard of the dad.
Yeah.
Okay. I take out juniors when I'm editing. Anthony McFarland Jr. makes me think his dad is Booger.
Mm-hmm.
But, Booger McFarland is Anthony McFarland.
Right.
If we're calling a guy junior, it's to differentiate. Does that mean the other Anthony McFarland I've heard about is a Ulysses S. Gilbert III? No, the third gets cut out. Presley Harvin III cut out. I don't know Presley Harvin 1 or 2. So therefore, Dan Moore Jr. is now just junior. You want to call him junior? We'll call him junior.
I like that.
So, but that's really nothing. It's not going to be Al Michaels screaming that name on. Who are my other choices? Oh, Freiermuth is Muth. I mean, when he catches the ball, it's going to be Muth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That can't be anything else. I mean, so I don't see a nickname in there, brother. I see a junior, I see a Najee, and I see a Muth.
All right. Hey, I like it. I'll have to, maybe we'll keep this like an ongoing thing here with nicknames this year. Maybe we can nickname the entire 53 when we're all said and done. So, well, hey, Jim, great talking Steelers football with you. We are wrapping up our second episode of the Steelers Insider, where we peer behind the steel curtain and let you in with our own Steelers Insider here. Jim Wexell, great. We're rolling here, and we're going to have a lot of content coming to you as the season gets started here on September 12th. Look for an update about when that will be coming. And again, thank you so much for joining us. You can follow Jim on Twitter. It's just at Jim Wexell.
Yes.
And you can check out his work on the Steel City Insider. Great stuff if you haven't seen it. You could follow me on Twitter at Still Study and check out my website at thestillstudy.com. So again, thank you, everybody. Much gratitude to you for joining us today. We will see you next time on the Steelers Insider podcast. Have a great weekend.